What's up, y'all? Erroneous here, back with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today's video, I'm going to be talking about the new fusion coming up for next week on Thursday. So let's get into it. All right, so here we are. We've got Krokad, the Throat Ripper. He's going to be pairing with Shayak, Packmaster Shayak. He is the owner, and this is the dog. Decent looking dog here. Obviously, he looks very similar to even the rares or epic dogs that they already have in game. But, you know, beggars can't be choosers. I wish they made him a little bit more, like, interesting looking. I'll be honest. Man, my forehead is shiny today. Damn. Anyways, let's get into this. Krokad, the Throat Ripper. On the A1, attacks all enemies. This attack deals single target damage to each target individually rather than in an AoE format. That's good for Hydra because the Hydras take less damage to AoE skills, especially the Head of Torment, or not Head of Torment, the Head of Suffering, I believe. That's an interesting one there. I mean, is it going to be huge on the attack? We don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it's actually going to be a great ability or not. It sounds great on paper, and it ignores reflect damage, pain link, and ally protection, so he won't just kill himself instantly. So it's decent. And if we take a look, because we have to take a look at Packmaster, right, in order to understand how they synergize with each other. So I do have Packmaster on this free-to-play account because I went for the fusion in the past. He's an HP based champion on the orcs. His A1 does a decreased defense and teams up with any ally like Terror Beast, Core Mask, Fellhound, Hellfang, Stitch Beast, and they're going to change and update this so it says Krokad the Throat Ripper, who is the first legendary dog. I don't know if they're going to bring in more dogs. That would be nice because I would like him to have a lot stronger dogs in the arsenal for Packmaster Shayak. But the decreased defense, 50% booked out to 75%, is very strong. Since he's HP based, he can be built very tanky in like a bolster set fashion, or he could be built in stalwart set, other sets that protect his team, where he soaks up damage. Like, for example, if you go to the Forge, there is a set right here called the Guardian set. The wearer absorbs 10% of all damage dealt to all allied champions and heals by 10% every turn. So he can definitely be built as a supportive type champion. But, you know, you want to also make sure that he's dealing some damage. I mean, he's not a huge damage dealer in general, but personally, I would want to build this guy in damage because he doesn't do ally protection. So you won't have to worry about him taking so much damage from ally protection if you put him in a damage dealer build. On his A2, he does remove all debuffs from himself and heals himself by 50% of his max HP. So I don't really like that because it's very selfish. I wish that he helped the entire team in this sense because it seems like he's more of a supportive based champion, but they are trying to make him a selfish support champion. But then it says places a shield buff on this champion for 2 turns. The value of the shield is equal to any surplus heal. The shield buff cannot be removed, stolen, or transferred if at least one Terror Beast, Gore Mask, so on and so forth, as well as now the Throat Ripper will be added soon if they're on the team. Finally, places a taunt and a reflect damage buff on this champion for 2 turns. These buffs cannot be removed, stolen, or transferred if one of the dogs on the team. So he's going to work a lot better in Hydra with a champion like Terror Beast, or rather not Terror Beast, Throat Ripper, because hopefully Throat Ripper will actually be a good damage dealing dog. In terms of all the other dogs, not so much. They're just not really good. I don't even think anybody even uses them unless you're super early game and you somehow pulled a Packmaster Shayak and you have them in Hydra. But let me know in your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you even use Packmaster? I don't use them. I have plenty of other options that are way stronger than him right now, but I'm hoping that this pairing will make him a lot stronger, maybe pull him out of the vault for some interesting builds. It is on a 3-turn cooldown as well. And then Blood Howl fills the turn meter of all allies by 25%. So he is a turn meter filler on a 3-turn cooldown, also very strong. And 80% chance of placing block buffs on all enemies, books out to 100%, thank God. This debuff cannot be resisted if at least one Terror Beast is on the team. So you don't need to put this guy with any accuracy, I think. Let's see. The A1, though, I think you do need accuracy. That sucks. They should have made this unresistible as well. if the dog's on the team. Like this needs to be updated to the same as this skill right here. Unresistible if one of the dogs is on the team, because then you don't have to build him with any accuracy. You can build him in full resist, and you can build him to tank the head of mischief, I believe it is, that tries to steal all the buffs. So because the dog's on the team, the head of mischief won't even be able to steal the buffs. But so that's even better, right? Because he's placing the buffs on himself, and they can't be removed. So he can be a tank. Like he can straight up be a tank even without the resistance, to be honest. And then he has speed in all battles by 19%. And when attacked, places a hex on the attacker for 1 turn. And ally attacks on targets under hex placed by himself. This champion deals 20% more damage. So that means anybody on your team does 20% more damage to a champion that has hex on them. When this champion is attacked, all allied Terror Beast, Gore Mask, Hellspawn, so on and so forth will counterattack. So Crockad, because of this skill right here, could go crazy. He could because of the A1. But you have to hope that the A1 on Crockad has a very high multiplier. If he doesn't have a high multiplier, then what's the point? It's just going to tickle them and do basically nothing. So I'm really, really hoping that it does well. Taking a look back at Crockad, the Throat Ripper, Festering Jaw, attacks all enemies, places an extra hit on enemies under 2 or more debuffs. Very strong. That's nice. Has a 75% chance of placing a leech and a weaken, a large version, for 2 turns, and these debuffs cannot be resisted if Packmaster's on the same team. Very, very nice. You want that. You actually need that. They synergize well, so that means that you can build Crockad with full damage, pretty much no accuracy whatsoever, unless there's other skills that require him to have accuracy. I'll get to that soon. But so far, I probably would not build him with any accuracy at all. It does book out to 100%, which is nice, but it does require, he requires 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 books. That's not bad for a legendary. 10 books is okay. But this skill itself requires the most books, which is what's annoying, requires 5 books. And legendary books are hard to come by. And like me, if you're like me, then you always get the legendary books landing in the A1 or the ability that you don't want them to land in. So Dominant Predator attacks one enemy, will ignore 50% of the target's defense, as well as life barrier and poison clouds. Okay, that's good. That's really good. I hope this hits very hard. If that's a big single target hit, then this guy could be insane for Hydra. And effects that redirect attacks, damage, or debuffs to another target. Huh. Okay. So he won't get instantly one-shot or reflected damage back to himself to die. Repeats the attack once if Packmaster Shyek's on the same team. So it's attacks one enemy 2 times if Packmaster's on the same team. That could be very powerful. Now, I'm not sure how strong they're going to be in Arena, just because Packmaster could end up being a sheep magnet, and he has to be attacked, so he would have to be built really slow. And you don't really want him to be built too slow, because you could build him in like Stone Skin in Arena, but in Hydra, you're going to want to build him in a faster build to get more ally attacks off, or just, yeah, with the A1, right? You want to get more ally attacks off for Packmaster. And so therefore, yeah, you want to build him fast. But I don't foresee people really utilizing him in Arena all that often, unless the dog is broken. If the dog's broken, then that's a different story, but I doubt that's going to happen. I really doubt that. For the passive, Primal Ambition increases this champion's attack by 5% when killing an enemy or decapitating a Hydra head. Stacks up to 25%. Huh. Okay, so that works in every area of the game, not just Hydra. So it's when killing an enemy. So that's Arena, PvE in general. Increase this champion's attack by 10% when killing an enemy or decapitating a Hydra head instead of Packmaster Shyek is on the same team. Okay, so it just doubles it and it stacks to 50% instead. Not bad. Instantly activates the Dominant Predator skill against a Hydra head when an ally is consumed by that head if Packmaster Shyek is on the team. I assume as well that when he activates instantly the dominant predator skill from the passive, that skill won't go on cooldown. If it goes on cooldown, then that's terrible. If it doesn't go on cooldown, then that's phenomenal, because you want him to keep on using that skill as much as possible. And I assume that even if the skill's on cooldown, it'll still trigger the dominant predator skill, which hits really hard. So I think the dog's going to be really good in Hydra. I just hope his multipliers are strong. If his multipliers are not strong, then he won't be very good at all. And it's just going to be a gimmick. Increase attack in all battles by 30%. A strong champion based on reading the cover. But we won't really know for sure until he gets in game. I'm really hoping to get this guy. I'm going to go for him anyways, regardless, because even if you don't have Packmaster, I still think you should go for this guy. There are a lot of people who don't want to go for him if they don't have Packmaster. Totally understandable. But if you don't have a champion that has a double AoE, like, think about it. He has an AoE on his A1 and an AoE on his A2, and places an extra hit on enemies under debuffs, and you don't have to have Packmaster on the same team to do that. So that's good for early game progression as well as mid game progression. Is it going to be great for late or end game? Possibly yes. Why? Because of Faction War Hard mode. If you're breaking into Faction War Hard mode, you don't have a lot of strong orc champions that are legendary for some strange reason. You have a lot of epics, like, you know, I can't think of any off the top of my head. Who's that one-shot queen? We've got Seer, or you have Vrask, who does healing, Survivor, who does block damage, is good in Clan Boss. You got Zargala, you got Jorg, maybe you have Ultimate Galek, things like that. Then, and maybe Tagore as a reviver, but you don't have a bunch of really good legendaries as damage dealers, then this guy could come in and do some work. Because Artak is great for, like, I just thought of him as, he has HP burn, and then he activates the HP burn on AoEs, but he's not doing much more. You know, he's not doing much else unless you put him in a stun set or a provoke set and he's trying to take damage, soak damage. But this guy is like a more of a pure damage dealer. So I think he would be good regardless, however you look at it. I don't think he's going to be insane if he doesn't have good multipliers, right? Because, and I have very little hope that he's going to be good, only because recently they brought out a champion named Grakos, who I thought it was going to be great, HP nuker, and turns out to be dog water nuker, just a support champion. So I was like, I really wanted to get that guy. I put on a video that I was like, everybody should get him. He's going to be great. And then he comes out and he's dog water. Like, they need to give him a buff to his multipliers, in my opinion. You know, you can't just have a champion that is only utility and not from a supportive standpoint, but then not be as strong as like someone like, obviously he's not Void Legendary, but Naemi. So, but he still needs to be really strong. He's not even as strong as Helikath, in my opinion. Grakos is worse than Helikath, in my opinion, but you guys can challenge me in the comments down below. But anyways, you should still get this guy if you're progressing through the game. Unless you're super end game, you're not going to need him. But if you're still trying to focus on Guardian Ring, like your faction Guardians, you're going to want to go for him as well because of that. So anyways, that's going to be it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on a video soon. Take care.